I mix what I like. All right, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of Academics and Cars. Again, I'm Dr. Jared Ball, and we are finally glad to catch back up with our dear sister comrade, Dr. Iyelli Ichile. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
To this version of the show.
Yeah, this is cool.
So the first thing I thought of when I thought about you in relationship to this film Black Panther is, and obviously it needs a lot of correction, but one of the first things I thought of honestly was you are the intellectual female Killmonger.
Oh my gosh.
So if we start with that, why, maybe explain why that might be right and why obviously it's incomplete.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm like, is that a compliment?
To me, it's a compliment.
It's a compliment, right? Because
I mean it is a compliment.
Thank you.
For sure.
Appreciate it.
Please, for sure. Because Killmonger for me is the hero.
He is. And that's where I started. You know, when the first time I saw the film, I was watching it with my daughter, and she said, they shouldn't have killed Killmonger. He's probably the hero because he wanted all the black people to be free. And I was just like, oh, I've done such a good job as a mother.
My oldest got it too. I was like, yes.
Killmonger really does. I think he is like me because I am from outside and I'm from inside. So my father's from the continent, aka Wakanda. My mother's from the south side of Chicago, not quite Oakland, but not too far away. So yeah, I mean literally, physically, kind of biologically identified with Killmonger, and this longing for home, but also understanding that there is also a bit of a strained relationship in terms of like what my father and his ideas about African Americans and my mother and kind of some African American attitudes toward the continent and people in the continent, and this resentment or this idea that you left us out here or you sold us out here. And I
mean, there is that Paul Mooney joke. I love Paul Mooney, but it made me uncomfortable as hell when he said it. When he said, I hate Africans too.
Yeah.
He was like, I hate white folks, but I hate Africans too, because when I got snatched up, y'all never came and got me. And I was like, wow, but some of it resonates, but some of it is like, that's not, it's obviously not that simple. But anyway.
Right. And we were just talking about this in my class last night, my African diaspora class. We're talking about the transatlantic trade in enslaved Africans. And so I always have my students write, one thing that's really clear, one thing that they just really want cleared up, like some clarity on about the topic. And more than one of them, raised the question of like, why didn't they come get us? Why they just leave us out here if they knew that this was happening? And I was like, well, I don't think they did know that this was happening. I mean, everyone has systems of unfree labor and servitude, but like this chattel system of dehumanizing and torturesome, and like we're literally depersonalizing and depriving people of their human rights. Like that's a system that wasn't in existence in the world, And so we read Olaudah Equiano, or an excerpt, and we talked about his experiences of being enslaved in Africa and his experiences of being enslaved in the Western world, and how radically different they were. He actually he said he would prefer to be a slave in Africa.
That's right.
And so also then we have to talk about
the word doesn't even apply.
Right.
Not that it was right. I'm not trying to glorify, but it really, and I think that's what I remember getting from him. That the word really doesn't apply when you say slavery here versus there. But anyway,
that's right. Very different systems, very different approaches to the humanity of the people who serve, and so and then also I was like, well, these people they weren't like indentured servants who some of whom may have been literate. They couldn't write back home to the chief and say, hey, they're abusing me over here, come get me. Find a ship and come get me, or like send for me. Right.
And here's exactly where I am.
Exactly. Because what knowledge of this geography do they have? So they were completely destabilized by just a completely alien environment. And so they didn't have the same recourse to go grieve back home, and
And the other part, if I can, I'm sorry, but it just is people can't forget that it wasn't as if the people being snatched from the continent were leaving an organized or civilized situation, or a civilization that was itself in power and in control.
Right.
It was itself in struggle and conflict with those enslaving, with other communities, with a lot, being enslaved itself, being colonized. So it wasn't as if there was this Wakanda that's all powerful,
Exactly.
out of which Africans are being snatched, and then there's this conscious decision with all this power to say, no, we're not going to go get them.
Exactly. African political bodies were destabilized. You know, in some environments, Europeans created like a sell or be sold place.
Right.
And so, you know, people had to make some really like just destructive and horrible decisions about that. So, you know, we have to really rehumanize our ancestors when we raise these questions. You know, what if you were faced with, I got to sell some people, I got to find some people to sell, otherwise they're taking me and my mom. You know, like, how, you know, you have to think about those things. And so there's a lot of blame and a lot of resentment all around, but we really have to get to the heart of like what all these dynamics were really like in practice.